Could the SEC have the most dominant group of defensive linemen we've seen over the last 10 years? It's very likely so. We're going to be breaking down the top 10 defensive linemen in the SEC going into the 2024 season. We got hot takes, we got big interior guys, we got guys that really should be playing any position on the field, and some that are just plain dominant, and one guy that could be the number one pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lucas Hill here of SEC Unfiltered. Please do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube page. Click the bell notification so that you are notified for every single video that we drop. We want to thank you guys for our continued growth of our channel as we close in on 12,000 plus subscribers. Please do us a favor. Also, follow us on every social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. This video has been brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. Going over to our friends over at SeatGeek.com. Use code SECU to get yourself $20 off of your first purchase. That's SeatGeek.com. You can download it on the Android or Apple store. Use code SECU. Get yourself $20 off of your first purchase. Coming in at number 10, I have Alfred Collins. Now, Texas has a lot of work to do. You lose Vontez Sweat, and you lose Byron Murphy. It seems like it's going to be a tall task for the Longhorns to replace those two interior guys. That is very, very difficult to do when you've got two first-round draft picks and two award winners that are now in the NFL. But Alfred Collins could be the next man up. He's primed for a breakout campaign. The biggest thing that he needs to work on is wrapping up. He misses a lot of tackles, and he has struggled when it comes to run stop. But what he adds as a pass rusher is worth the occasional missed tackle and such. He was a participant in the All-American Bowl back in his senior year of high school. Honorable mention, all Big 12 last year. He's had 12 starts. He's the most experienced defensive lineman of the group. So he's going to be very critical going into this upcoming year and be a leader amongst that defensive line group, which includes a lot of talent, but still a lot of new faces. And Collins is the guy that's been there the longest. He's been there since the COVID campaign. So he's going to be the one that's going to be key for this Texas defensive line to get off the ground running. Coming in at number 9, I have Nick Scourton. Now, Scourton's going to be fun to watch. He's the transfer from Purdue, and boy, is he a load. Sophomore campaign was arguably his best. Had 10 sacks, led the Big Ten in sacks, had 50 tackles as well. Second team all Big Ten. This guy is just a monster. 6'4", 280 pounds. You could put him anywhere. And with this new defense that's going to be rotating to a 4-man front, you could put him in a 5-tech, and he can rush off the edge against a tackle. Or you can put him in a 3-tech, put him up against a guard. I guarantee you he's going to have his way with him. Or you could also put him at nose. And if you put him one-on-one with a center, oh my gosh, it's over with as soon as the ball is snapped. That center is not going to be able to get his hands up against a guy like Scourton. Scourton's just too fast to have a center try to line up against him, especially when it comes to pass rush. He's one of the best. He's going to be one of the most underrated pass rushers of this campaign, and I can't wait to see him in action. Coming in at number 8 is arguably the most sought-after interior defensive lineman during this past offseason in college football, and that's Dominic Williams. Dominic Williams, honorable mention all Big 12. Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year at some point. I mean, this was a fantastic dude. Freshman All-American as well. I mean, this is a dominant interior lineman. 6'2", 320 pounds. And when you look at him, he really doesn't look like he carries that much weight. He was part of that national championship team and was an integral part of it as well. Started off 15 games at the age of 17. And boy, did he have a fantastic year. I mean, when you look at him, he's a guy that not a whole lot of offensive linemen are going to be able to stop. 33 tackles, 5 tackles for loss to go along with 3 sacks. I mean, he can get in the backfield very quickly. I mean, he went to he was part of a very good defensive line group. I mean, he's going to bring some real power. And this team really needed to get off the field. So this is a guy that everybody was salivating over. They were really, really just pushing to get a guy like Williams, and a guy that really needed to have for most teams' defensive line. You saw Texas tried to get him. Missouri tried to get him. LSU tried to get him. Oklahoma is going to be much better when you have a guy like that coming in, and really he's going to be a difference maker as soon as he steps on the field in Norman, Oklahoma. Coming up, I have Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina. This guy is a beast. I mean, this guy is unbelievably good. The Gamecocks put him all over the defensive line. 6'3", 285 pounds. His first step is really explosive. He can cross face in a hurry as well. When he gets his hands up, when he didn't get home, resulted in a conference-leading 8 batted passes in 2023. This could be the year that Hemingway boosts his draft stock up, and not a lot of NFL teams are looking at a guy like that. And it's kind of sad that they're not, because he's really a fantastic interior guy. When you see him come off the edge, I mean, you're going to watch a guy that knifes his way through offensive lines. He shows great awareness to diagnose a screenplay. He's a very good player. His quick wins at the line of scrimmage, uses a swim move really well. Hand swipes are incredible, and he can chase after the quarterback as well. He takes good pursuit angles. That's a guy that you want on your interior if you're any NFL team. So they better start paying attention to him as the season goes on. Coming up at 6, I have Landon Jackson, and not a lot of people are talking about Landon Jackson either. Named him as one of the top defensive linemen that people need to take a look at going into this season. And he's going to be a big reason why Arkansas could take that next step in 2024. At first team All SEC this past year, I mean, this is a guy that was so dominant. I think he was top 10 in the SEC in sacks. And when you look at him, I mean, holy cow. There's no question why he's going to be a first-round draft pick next year. 6'7", 11 tackles, 3.5 sacks against Alabama. He did that against Caden Proctor. He did that against a very good offensive line in Alabama. So there's no reason why he shouldn't improve. He said at media days, I think I had a good game, but I got to make that in a multiple game throughout the year and put up more games like that to be who I think I should be. And he has the opportunity to do that. You know? I mean, that was his only SEC game with a sack. 12th in the conference, and had 6.5 sacks. Went 3 conference games, though, without a tackle for loss. And he did enough to demand the respect of rival coaches. Was a first-team All-SEC, number 7 defensive lineman coming out of high school. Didn't get much playing time at LSU. But when you take a look at a guy like that and you see his dominance against that one game, you start to think about what could he do in the future, not just against Alabama, but against teams in the NFL. And he has the opportunity to do that. And I think he will do that going into this year. Michael Williams coming in at number 5. Now, Williams is going to be a hit or miss this year. I do hope that he is who he advertised himself to be as an All SEC, as a 2-time All SEC in 2022 and 2023. Freshman All American, and he has an opportunity to do some great things. Last year was pretty much kind of a down year for him, from what he called it. Didn't showcase what he really could be in the future. He's ready for a breakout season. You know, he has a lot to choose to show this upcoming year. He's going to play defensive end and outside linebacker as well. So he was very so why is he moving to outside linebacker too? He was very dominant in the Orange Bowl. And yes, he may have been playing against basically a JV team. I mean, you're still going up against the same competition. He's had a season high 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And Glenn Schumann's going to be using him an awful lot during this season. I mean, he already is going to make that transition. I do think Williams would fit best as a down tech defensive lineman, but if you get him in a stand-up position, I mean, you're just asking for an offensive lineman to bounce outside much quicker, but he's just going to rip back inside and take advantage of that because an offensive lineman's just going to get so far out, he's not even going to have a prayer to be able to stop a guy like Michael Williams. So coming in at number 4 is Williams' teammate, Nazir Stackhouse. Now, Stackhouse is going to be next man up. He is going to be that next guy that people are going to look at and really realize that guys like Jordan Davis, guys like Jalen Carter have paved the way for Stackhouse to be the next great interior defensive lineman for the Georgia Bulldogs. And get ready because it's going to be fun watching him play. 2-time All SEC. He can take over a game any day of the week. When you get him into a groove, you saw it against Ole Miss. You saw it against Alabama. You saw it against Auburn. You saw it against South Carolina. He can take over a game at any point in time. You just have to get him in a rhythm. He just has to be consistent, and he has to be aware. There's so much talent that this guy has that many people could consider him to be a first-round draft pick, and I don't blame him. But he's got to be better. He's got to be consistent as an interior lineman. We'll see what happens with what he has this season. I do think that he's going to be a big-time guy, and I do think he's going to continue the legacy that was left behind him from interior defensive linemen from Georgia's past. Deion Walker comes in at number 3, who could be the best interior defensive lineman in the SEC. And when I tell you this dude is a beast, this dude is incredibly dominant. He's the first guy off the bus. 350-pound defensive lineman. Had 51 pressures this past year. And when you look at guys like that, you'd think that they'd have to eat the double team and just stuff the run. No. He dwarfs nearly every offensive lineman that he's up against. So most guys that are that size, they're just going to be run stuffers. They don't add anything to the pass rushers. But his run defense grade was an 81.7 according to Pro Football Focus. He led all interior defensive linemen in pressures, had 8 sacks, were tied for the most among Power 5 defensive linemen. He's the second most valuable Power 5 defensive tackle according to Pro Football Focus. The number 1 is Mason Graham this upcoming year, who's going to be the best interior defensive lineman in all of college football. Deion Walker's going to have something to say about that. If he has a big year this year, he may just be a top 15 pick in next year's draft. And he's going to be an integral part of what could be a resurging Kentucky defense. Number 2, I have Walter Nolan. Now, I talk about Deion Walker, who could be the best interior defensive lineman. But just overall defensive line, I think Walter Nolan has an opportunity to take that. We'll just have to see what he pulls off this year. Comes into Ole Miss, and this guy is a bowling ball of an interior defensive lineman. College career has been a bit underwhelming, but at the same time, he's going to take over games. He's going to dominate, and he's going to show you that he's going to dominate. He had a breakout year last year, had 4 sacks to go along with 37 tackles and a pass deflection. People are fawning over this guy because there is a reason why. 6'4", 290 pounds, give or take, he's 300 pounds just looking at him. This dude is strong. He is extremely big for a guy like that. There's no way you can count it that he's that big. He's more than that. He's got to be at least 310, give or take. But when you watch him get off the ball, you're shocked because there's no way that somebody of that size can get off the ball that quickly because of what he can do, because of how dominant he can be, because of just how unbelievable this guy's athleticism is for a guy this big. And number one, no doubt about it, arguably the best defensive player in all of college football, it's James Pierce Jr. NFL draft analysts would have said that he would have been the number one defensive player in the 2024 draft. First team all SEC this past year, 3rd in the SEC in sacks and 5th in TFLs. I mean, come on. This guy is the best defensive lineman in all of college football. I really don't have to do a lot of explaining why. You just have to turn on the film and just watch him play. When you looked at that Citrus Bowl against Iowa's offense, now I know it was Iowa's offense, and I know that they were not accustomed to scoring a whole lot this year, but he's unbelievable. He's a freak of nature. Long, athletic, has extremely good explosiveness and instincts. He's going to be the number one player in the country according to On3. And he had a pick 6 in the Citrus Bowl. I think he had 2 sacks as well. But when you just look at how he does, his hands are consistently moving. His get off is incredible. And there's no doubt that he's going to be the guy to watch in orange and in white for the Tennessee Vols. Because this is a guy that many people are just going to be fawning over. NFL GMs want a guy like this. They need a top-tier edge rusher. He could be the next Myles Garrett. He's not as big or as fast as Garrett was in college, but his athleticism reminds me so much of him. And that's why I think that. Who did I miss on the defensive line? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lucas Hill. Make sure you are subscribing. Turn on the bell notifications for our updates for our latest videos. Check us out on every social media. And check out SECUnfiltered.com for more from our wonderful staff here at SEC Unfiltered. Until next time, Lucas Hill, see ya.